Welcome to the Voices of Ecosystems.
Welcome to today's Ecosystemizer podcast, or podcast and vlogcast. Today, I have a very, very interesting guest. It's not only a guest; it's also a friend. It's a colleague, and it's a sparring partner for that what we have done here with ecosystems and also the Ecosystemizer concept. It's Denis Krechting. Denis, hello. Today, welcome to today's session. I'm really looking forward to start this blog sessions with you because you actually, or we both actually started to think about ecosystems together when we met at a conference, and then actually saw that we have the same mindset, the same perspective on the world. We are working on the same topics. Which is researching and applying concepts for companies to transform into ecosystem companies. And then we started the first versions of the Ecosystemizer together. And now it's almost 4 years ago when that was happening. And now, the journey is still ongoing. You now are doing still very much things related to ecosystems. You have focused now more also on the topic of urban development, smart city, where you are a front runner also in Germany with that what is coming from your university where you did recently your PhD in Aachen University, or Rheinisch-Westfälische Hochschule Aachen in German, very famous in Germany, and now having also responsibility as a CEO or a managing director of a company who's pushing or helping companies in the smart city context. So welcome here once again, Denis, but maybe just a couple of words which you can add. What are you currently doing? What is your responsibility? Happy to.
For Julian, that you're having me in your first vlog, or in the first vlog of the Ecosystemizer. It's a great honor because when we started our journey, 3 or 4 years ago, where the time passed, we had the great opportunity and the chance to structure all the things that are out there in the ecosystem world. And the ecosystem world, if you see it, it's around us and it's happening. And now we see that other companies also want to be an ecosystem player. And me, myself, and I, as you told the audience before, I am also an ecosystem player because the last almost 7 years, I was in an ecosystem here in the Aachen University. And I had the honor to develop also stuff that's related to ecosystems, and I'm still in there. With you, I had the chance to structure that, and now I'm responsible for an organization together with a colleague of mine who's developing or pushing up urban systems and urban innovation. Urban innovation is also a huge topic because it's an ecosystem in itself. You have to have in mind everything that is in an urban or is in an urban area, and it's about people, it's about mobility, it's about consumption, it's about everything that you need for the day and or in your daily basis. And I'm still pushing forward topics around ecosystems, and I'm also using the Ecosystemizer in my daily business. So
that sounds great. So maybe you can have a minute on that. First of all, so of course, where are you using the Ecosystemizer? That is obviously one very important question. But also, what are your topics right now? Maybe what are the important topics you're just working on currently?
Yeah. So the first thing is that we come up with the topic of smart buildings. So smart buildings are one part of the urban development and also the urban ecosystems. And as you see, the buildings itself, I'm in one of these smart buildings. If you see,
looks great, by the way.
Excuse me.
It looks great, by the way. Your background, better than my artificial background,
No, it's real one. And what we see is that if you start with the data and also with the problem in mind from the ecosystem view, and the point of view is always the human. and they have the human in mind, and seeing, okay, what is the, or which solutions do humans need in a building, and there are so many solutions that you need. It's from good work, it's everything that has to do with health, it's mobility, it's consumption, everything that the ecosystem gives you is also here in a building. And we started here with the topics and that's surrounded by smart buildings, and smart buildings itself need technology. They need to be connected. So we started with a platform, like a physical platform, where we put different components from different players together and then add software on it so that you have a stack. And a working stack for people who want to develop smart buildings. And we make the configuration and the implementation for them here in our building, test it and bring it out into, yeah, like the urban developments that are happening these days. So this is one topic. The other topics are a bit broader, if you see it like that. There are a lot of good developments because the cities are growing and they need more districts, new districts, and they also want to rethink and think districts differently, because in the old world, it was like very dense and many houses on one place, that's it. These days, the urban developments and also the district developments go into like, yeah, ecosystems itself, because they have short ways, a lot of services for mobility, for consumption, for health, for everything that you need on a very, very dense base. And this is so good to see to use the ecosystemizer for these developments and to make it transparent where you need it and where should be maybe a focus in the urban development in a district. So there could be a district which is like the health district, and you have everything that has to do with health. The consumption can be health that you can find there. You can have yeah, the mobility services, there are more on bikes and stuff. So you can really rethink the urban development by using our concept here. This is still good and quite cool to see.
Very cool. Maybe we come on that with this division of building and like cities or bigger infrastructure. But I like to know a little bit about the smart building once again, because actually I haven't been to one really smart building. Can you give us a little bit examples? What is, for instance, the smartest building in the world or the smartest building you know, and what is the ecosystem around these kind of smart buildings? That would be very interested.
Yeah, so we hope that we will develop the smartest building in the world in the next years, next to this building that that I'm standing in. So this is the starting point, but there are still so many people working on this topic, because these days you have just the building itself, and then no extra services itself, some of them, but not that much. But if you go to Berlin, for example, there's Cube, then there's the Ship in Cologne, which are all good developments to see smart buildings like in the real world and live. And we want to really help yeah, the project developer to make that more into the broader skill.
And on an international level, where do you think is there the standard of smart buildings? Or is there one building where you can say, okay, this is wow, this is so great, it's everything is sensitized and connected, yeah?
Yeah, one of the other one where it's more international, it's the Edge, where it's based in Amsterdam. The Edge is also very connected and smart building itself. So yeah, this is also an example that I have to mention here. But yeah, so it's also an international.
Who is actually the ecosystem in this building? You were mentioning, okay, there was facility management, but it's even more. So who are the players there?
The whole market is changing there. So there are a lot of players who positioning themselves in a different way these days. So it's from Phoenix Contact, who's like a big player in this part, to app development service providers. It's Siemens. Everybody who has like some kind of technology that comes into the building have to be now more IoT ready. They have to be more integrated, and this is the whole complexity that comes in. So there's no really market these days, but everybody knows that they have to have a shift in the market itself. So they have to develop into like an ecosystem that can combine their technologies together. But there's no standard these days. And what we do is we make a standard with our partners here on one place, and you can see it and integrate it like on real or in real time, and also on a physical platform with all the software that you need. So this is quite the new stuff because everything else is like in a prototype status that you see out there, and we want to make it more professional.
Pretty cool. And if you now go to this broader context of urban development, what are there the examples where you can tell us a little bit more from your use cases, and who are the players there when you have a part of the city or even a whole city to think in an ecosystem way? So first of all, examples. Second, who are there the main players who are kind of playing in this ecosystem?
Yeah, this is the biggest role, and that's quite clear are the cities itself. So
okay.
They have the biggest role in the whole game, because they have the need, and they have to, or they know that they have to change in some places, and there are so many changes in the society, from everything that has to do with mobility. You can see everything is changing. So this is a whole topic and whole ecosystem itself. You have everything that has to do with health. It's changing these days. This is why I'm wearing my mask. And there's so many other changes in there. There's also so many things that are changing into our energy consumption. So this is like the whole cities are flowing. Yeah, you see now green cities. Do you want to have a green city? Should it be on the mobility side changed? What's your focus? So what's maybe your strategic point that you want to aim to? At the end, you have to have everything, but you can have also a strategic, let's say, focus. And this is also the important of it. Who has the main role, or where are the examples? Yeah, there are so many good examples these days. I'm working with two or let's say three different cities here, and the players that you have in the back are the huge ones, because the huge ones, they want to really redesign the cities. They are the one who really want to push innovation forward, but at the end it's also sometimes a hard market, because the money there is not that big as it is in companies. So who pays at the end for the whole innovation, and also for our urban solutions? And this makes the market a bit harder than some of the others.
But to make it a little bit more concrete, so who are players? I can imagine that should be telco players for networks to deliver the infrastructure. Then maybe also companies like technology companies like a Siemens, also doing mobility solutions, and others. And you mentioned the cities by themselves, the mayor and the admin, the local government. Who else? Maybe just to name another ones who are actually the core of formulating and designing these smart city ecosystems.
Yeah, for everything that is new buildings and new infrastructures, it's the project development companies. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is a lot of this is like the market is very fragmented. So you have a lot of project developer out there, and the cities, they say, okay, this space is preserved for hotel. This is preserved for, I don't know, green fields and stuff. So with them, like the project developer and the cities in the combination, you can really make strong and good urban solutions. But at the end, it has to be paid from one of the ones in the chain. So it could be the user, so the one that the citizen, or sometimes the company who says, okay, we want to have a lighthouse project. Or it's the mayor who says, I want that. I want to have like a 5G infrastructure and everything should be connected. Then he's the one who pays for it. So, of course, we have a lot of governmental funds that also make the whole process in or makes the whole process going on. But still, there's not the person or the one who can decide what happens. So it's like
that means when we talk about challenges, and we can actually, well, I can actually listen that from your statements. It's first of all the question: who's paying for all of that? Who's doing the start investment? And secondly, who's actually leading that as the orchestrator, or actually as the leading role? What are that the main challenges, or are there others? Because I see is that you say there's big potential, but still not yet really so much going on, or not as much as it could be. So what are the challenges?
I told you it's the money, but at the end, it's
always the money.
But you have to turn it around, because if you see, like, there are lighthouse projects, I told you, from buildings and also from districts where all this system works, and they work better if you use all the digital products and all the digital solutions that we have. Because imagine, why is it more cost intensive to have, for example, mobility hubs or something in the cities? Because you have space that could be used, for example, as housing, then you get money from it. Or you can have a mobility hub. The mobility hub and the rent for it is lower than for housing. So somebody has to pay, there's a gap. If you have some, like, saying, more purpose use for areas, so you can do more things with one area at one time because of digitalization, then the space itself gets cheaper, or you can do more things on it, and then the space is reused for more than one purpose. So, and then the whole business case is green at the end. It's still in the theory sometimes, but imagine you have multi-purpose rooms and spaces which can be used like 4 or 5 times for different stuff. It's not always useful and intelligent, but in some cases it could be a green case, for example, and then the whole system works. But the IT infrastructure and also the digital infrastructure has to be there at the end. So you have the investments at the beginning, and if you have the basic and the basic layer, you can do all the other stuff on top.
And that sounds for me very, very reasonable. And I would go even one step further, because I read one of the biggest projects you actually are addressing through ecosystem building, ecosystem thinking, are the Olympic Games in 2032. So the big vision to bring them to Germany, to bring them to your region in central Germany. That also, of course, as a starting point from ecosystem thinking and ecosystem implementation. So can you comment on that a little bit and tell us what is the status quo there? What's going on there? And in what extent is that already ecosystem mindset and ecosystem doing?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. This is my purpose. I started with the idea, and it was not me who having the idea to bring the Olympics to this Rhine-Ruhr region. It would be great if I would be the one, but it was our idea giving person, who's Michael Mons and Günther Schuh, who said, yeah, this is a great opportunity to make a super showcase out of it. And we are doing all the things not because of Olympia. We doing the things that are necessary to have, or to be very innovative and put all the things together that we have here in this region. And this makes it even better. But we give the whole thing a purpose, and also a date, because 2032 is like almost there, and we have to start and prepare ourselves. And when it comes to ecosystems, sure, at the end, it's also the great experience that you want to have, or that you want to give to the people who come to our region. And it's like 4 million foreigners coming to our place and want to visit stuff. They want to have good mobility solutions, which are climate neutral, and all this stuff. And this is like, also, if you take the user or the citizen or whoever in the middle, then you have like all the things that are important for them because they are here and they are our guests. And this is also the case here, that you have to have like an ecosystem thinking here. Yeah.
And maybe one challenging question, what is new? One could say, okay, I mean, we have Olympic Games now for since 1896, yeah, and cities had to develop infrastructure and solutions for mobility, etc., to be hosts of that. So what has changed in the last years or last decades from this ecosystem perspective to bring such a project to life?
From an ecosystem perspective, this is hard to answer, but what's new, I can tell, because the other Olympic Games, if you have seen or listened to them, were very exhausting in terms of the money that is used for infrastructures that are not needed. This is new here because we have like 90% of the battlefields that are needed for Olympic Games. So from swimming to every like facility in stadiums, we have almost everything, and we don't have to build all the stuff new, so it's there, but the infrastructure could be better to like connect it and make more.
So it's a connection,
especially. To make the user experience better, and the stuff that is invested is still or is invested for the people who are there after the Olympic Games, and it's not like a stadium that's out there in the middle of nowhere where nobody is needs that needs the facilities anymore. So it's more the resource and the almost resource neutral thinking that we have in mind here.
That makes sense. That means if I translate that into my imagination, so you create, you use this occasion of Olympic Games to optimize the infrastructure, to digitize it, to make it, to bring it to the smart city standard, and then at the end, purpose-driven to improve standard of life for all the people in the region, and that they actually gain benefits apart from the games itself, and that they can live in a better world, which is driven by more connected partnerships and more use cases and more offerings. Is it kind of the vision?
Yeah, this is exactly it, because we don't do it for Olympics. The Olympics are just the super showcase where you can have like everything ready, yeah, because then it should be there, and then the citizens of the smart city, the urban developments can have it for the next decades, and this is like the good news.
Pretty cool, pretty visionary. I would like to switch the topic. Maybe one other topic I would like to deep dive into, where I think you are also a very keen expert. And because often ecosystems are something for huge companies, big giants, we know them all, the tech companies from Alibaba, Tencent, but also the incumbents. So they are like addressing the topic, are doing projects. But the question is now, what is with smaller companies? And Germany, and I know also your region, and you're also working with a lot of companies, not really very small ones, but the classical hidden champions, we call them here in Germany, like companies who are market leaders in worldwide markets, but still not really famous and having like sales from 200, 250 million to 2 billion, but not, as I said, as big corporates. So for these companies especially, often they don't have the time and the money and the resources to do big strategic initiatives. Question is now, how far are they with ecosystems, and what would you recommend them to go further?
Yeah. I can't speak for every SME here.
Of course, but I mean, maybe just to have a couple of examples or a couple of ideas in mind, just from your experience, if you can name them, if not, just to neutralize it and to tell us a little bit, generally speaking, like the smaller ones versus the big ones.
Right. I work with them a lot, and I think this is quite the good news. Sometimes we say, yeah, the SMEs in Germany are one of the strongest motors in Germany, and this is by far that. Sometimes they don't have the resources, you named it, to make like really big steps, but they are like quite, let's say, innovative in terms of product innovations and stuff. So they know how to engineer stuff most of the time. They know how to really get into the market with products because they see like strategic, let's say, gaps, and they can just push into with technology, and we are quite good at that. With the whole, and let's say, digital business, we are struggling, some of them, not all of them, but we are struggling because it's new, it's software, and yeah, we are not that tech driven, and we are not that software driven as, for example, the US and all these platform plays that we see. And this has nothing to do with software skills and stuff. It has more to do with the end customer view that they all have. This is sometimes the thing that's missing in the SMEs, because they love their innovations, they love their products, they love their technologies and stuff. But to be technology driven doesn't help anymore. You have to have like the chains. And this is something I would say most of the SMEs have, or this is like something that you can see through all the companies, that they don't see like the big picture or something that's at the end. They just see their technology and what they can use it for. So they are sometimes too technology driven. This is what's missing, and I think yeah, there could be also a big step for like every company to get more to a human thinking there.
That's a good keyword, because that's just came into my mind. We call them enabler because often they are enabler, classical B2B companies producing components or infrastructure, materials or whatever, or machines. And the question is now, you said you recommend, please think more holistically, please think more end-to-end to the end customer, and understand the end customer, the final end customer, even the human, and not just their direct customer. So the question is for them, why? I mean, maybe they say, okay, we don't have contact. Our machines are delivered to the OEM, and the OEM is producing cars or packaging or whatever with that. So why should they think more holistically, and why should they more ecosystem oriented versus doing good products, which you just criticized? Yeah. So what is there the reason why for doing so? Yeah.
Yeah, but because at the end they are doing it also for us. Not also, they everything you deliver is for an end customer. And if you know the problem of the one that's next in your chain, and the next one, you can solve really problems. You can see it. We discuss it more these days with as a service models for everything. Yeah, you can say as a service, steel as a service, whatever. And these as a service models, they are the next step to say, okay, I go to the customer, or I go one step further to my customer. And if you think it till the end, then you're at your place or at my place at home and deliver something. And this is why they have to have in mind, yeah, the end customer, and maybe what is my really point in the chain, and how can I solve maybe the next or the next 10 steps for somebody to make my business better, because then I'm really into the chain to the customer, and solve problems for like the whole chain, and not only for my next customer.
I mean, that's the ecosystem to human paradigm, how we named it. The question is how to bring that into these mindsets of the top managers of SMEs. So what is your recommendation, your advice there, how to do it? How do you get them to think in that way?
Yeah, good question. I had the same struggle with telling them that they have to digitalize their products.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's like almost 5 years ago when I was very into like all the SMEs and saying, hey, digital stuff is very good. And it has to be in the top management in their minds, and saying, okay, why is that important? And you asked me for the why. The why is because then you make new business models, and new business models that have high revenue streams in terms of everything that comes to your company, because you know the problems better. And then you need see more solutions, and so on and so on. So the recommendation is, yeah, go to www.ecosystemizer.com.
That's too simple, but thank you.
Yeah. read a book about it, because no, the facts are clear. Look at all the studies that are coming from all the big consultancy firms. See or look how the ecosystem players, which started with a platform, all of them have like a platform which is not an ecosystem. Started with the platform, and they make a lot of money because they see the problems from their customers, because they have enough data, they have the knowledge what happens and so on. You can, from this point, you can start and make really the business going on and grow. So this is why everybody wants now be a platform player, but you don't have to be. You can also be a platform player, but you can also be an ecosystemizer or an ecosystem player, which is like the same thinking, because it doesn't matter if you have a product or a software platform. At the end, you solve a problem, but on different level. And this is just a way of thinking, a way of strategic positioning, a way of doing business.
So that means, first of all, getting enough knowledge, getting enough facts about it, reading a book, whatever, getting some knowledge about talks and discussions. That maybe is the first step. But what's the next step? Do you need an ecosystem unit? How to get the party started in terms of resources? What do you recommend there? Kind of an SME CEO who thinks or who is convinced after reading enough literature?
Yeah, what could be the next step? First, like I told you, it's always starting with the managing point. So the managers have to be aware of it. And an ecosystem unit for SME, no. I have seen so many CDOs, and the CDOs, at the end, I think it's not a working thing. I think you have like more than it's like a culture that you start and the thinking, and this is like we have seen it in the Toyota time, where all this Kaizen and yeah, like the way of thinking in optimization was a big thing. It's like always the same. You have like to have a kata in your mind, if you can say it. It's more technical stuff, but the kata here is the thinking of an ecosystem itself, and being a player, and then the people have to have that in mind and start also growing the idea of ecosystems and being an ecosystem player itself. They have to be an ecosystem player as person. So this is how it should start, with like yeah, teaching concept, or let's say more yeah, how is it called if you teach a teacher? Yeah.
Sounds to me also very reasonable and brings me almost to the end, maybe like 2 to 3 further questions. Now we look into the future, we look into the glass bowl, and I would like to know, what is your perspective? How will the ecosystem topic in general will evolve over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years? What are the main developments you see on the horizon?
It's quite easy. We are all in an ecosystem, but nobody calls it like that. And sometimes the players itself, they don't see that they are right now working in an ecosystem. They won't name it like that, but at the end they are acting sometimes like ecosystem player. And I think it will evolve even more through the next years by corporations. You see it all over the place. See the big companies in mobility. They're all coming together onto one point and making business together and stuff. We will see that more and more and more and more and more, because at the end, everybody, if you take mobility as one point, just wants a solution. I just don't want like having a car, a ticket for the Deutsche Bahn, a VOI account, and whatever. I just want to go from A to B. And at the end, it can only be solved by a complete solution. And we'll see that all these partners will go together. And this is just one part. There will be way more.
Hopefully, I'm looking forward, because that's still a problem to have not this seamless integration, which is the core of ecosystems, also in the classical traditional literature, but also in practice. And that comes me to the brings me to the ultimate question, in terms of, is there anything where you act or have an ecosystem in your private environment and act as an ecosystem, let's say, actor, or is it just something for the professional context?
By private, you mean private?
Private life, meaning, is there anything where you live the ecosystem mindset also in the private context, or is it just something for business to think like this ecosystem openness, etc.? What you just mentioned, what managers should do. Is it something also for the private context, or is it just a professional thing?
No. At the end, we do everything for ourselves, let's say for the human being, and the mindset itself. Like I told you, you have to have a mindset for ecosystems to act like an ecosystem player. And yeah, of course, because of my work, I am an ecosystem player itself. Where can you see that? In the private life, it's a good question. I think I'm optimizing always the ways I'm doing with everything that has to do with consumption, mobility, and stuff. I share my car. This is also one thing I do by digital tools. So it's not useful or not smart to have like 10 cars with 10 people. It's not. And you can optimize that and saying, okay, in the private life, it's easy. And you can also do something good for the world, which is critical, more critical than ever these days. This is something good. So especially in terms of CO2 footprint and everything that has to do with it, I think you have to have an ecosystem thinking, because then you find the real optimum of things and can act like an ecosystem player.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true, and it's even still a not deep and discussed question, but it's true. I mean, we are at least part of every ecosystem as humans, as customers. But the question is, all these things, CO2, you mentioned it, sustainability, but also the whole data thing is, what is actually the perspective on data in the next 10, 15 years? Who owns the data? And maybe if we own it one day, if that is one scenario, some like futurists tell us, then we are actually also really key parts and not just users of ecosystems. And that's the other part. It's more philosophical and maybe more a kind of a outlook part. But I think with these examples, it gets concrete also to me that we are part of it, and maybe we are even we get a different role in the future as actors, as more progressive and active actors in ecosystems than we have it today. That's at least how I see it. Yeah, we are at the end. Thank you very much, Denis, for these really interesting insights. It was brilliant to see also from the smart city building ecosystem to the Olympic Games and now to the SMEs. So I think we had a broad context of topics and a lot of recommendations you told us from your experience. Thank you so much. And looking forward to collaborate in all of the topics we are already collaborating, and for all others which will follow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julian. Have a nice evening.
You too. Thank you.